What's up? I'm back. In this segment, I'm going to introduce a character, one of my personal favorites. I It's funny, he's one of my favorite characters, but I'm actually more curious to see how the world responds to him. The Enforcer, who basically it's like the Punisher meets a shaman. He's kind of an activist. He's into the community. You know, he's a shaman, a sealing, so he has natural abilities. The interesting thing about it though is that, in a sense, when you look at it from a certain perspective, the most interesting part of him is that he's a good guy, right? He's a good guy, but he's also a member or former member of the Ku Klux Klan, so he's a white supremacist. And I'm gonna have fun with this character, no question. He's so because when people hear that, they say he's a good guy, but he's a white supremacist. That doesn't make any sense. Well, what I'm his character really is interesting because his family was Stone Cold Clan members. They've been like that for as long as he can remember, even back from his great grandfather. So it was kind of part of family tradition. You know, he has obviously a love for the white race, but when he was in the Klan as a teenager, he saw that they talked about white power, but improving their way of life for you know the people in their neighborhoods who were obviously probably come from a little bit of a poorer background. But he saw them almost acting more like drug dealers, more like raping girls in their community, instead of really being pure white power in terms of just loving their race and wanting the best for them. They were physically harming other races, but and most importantly, instigating. And he became a student of history, unlike a lot of his brethren. So what happens is that because he became a student of history, he started to also see how when European cultures went into indigenous cultures, sometimes indigenous cultures they weren't more sophisticated if you deal with war. If you're talking about war and the ability to build weapons, they weren't more sophisticated than them in that aspect. But if you talk about in terms of spirituality, connecting to nature, even understanding divine arts that were basically the foundation for science, he started to see, wow, other cultures actually contributed and in some ways actually taught the Europeans certain things. So that didn't change his love for his people, but it showed that he came to a conclusion, hey, I don't have to be for interracial dating to respect someone else, if that makes any sense. And that's exactly what eventually ended up happening. And, obviously he got kicked out the clan. They weren't down with it. And, when he got kicked out the clan, he went a different way. He used shamanism to enhance his natural gifts. So when he came back, he started to fight crime and clean up his neighborhoods for not just the criminals, but from the corrupt clan as well. So he started not trusting the government. So his transformation, he still loves his people. He still thinks that they have to do certain things to stay culturally intact. He's still not really for interracial dating. He still has certain attributes that people would say are bad. But I don't really think life's about good and bad in general. I think most people are gray. And at heart, when you read him, he's still gonna be an interesting character because in the AUM universe, eventually the superheroes take over and they become the new government, right? So because of the new government, they start to abuse their power too. So when when they first manifested, he started to realize, even though you might think of yourself in racial dynamics, there's a whole new set of things that you may not have known that would change the equation of how you see everything, not just including race. So obviously he then had to work with other people who may not be white, and it broadened his horizons. But at the same time, we're going to be focused on the fact that pretty much he does have some gifts, but compared to a lot of characters in AUM, he's like the Punisher with little shamanistic gifts. So he's still very human in certain ways. And it's interesting in a sense because I think as a writer, art should be something about being able to, even if you haven't experienced something, to help to show you another viewpoint from a totally different angle. So while most people would say someone evil joins the clan, that may not necessarily be true, to be honest. Yes, is the clan evil? Yeah, no doubt. They do harm and they do more harm than good. So nobody is saying this to say that the clan is good, but that doesn't mean everyone who joins that is evil inherently. They've been taught it. They've been maybe misinformed. And also, not just sometimes misinformed, they might actually, nothing is wrong in the end of the day, no matter what race you are. for wanting to preserve your race. That doesn't make you evil. It's what you do after that. So to me, the enforcer represents a character that's going to be controversial. But it's going to be a character that's just not controversial for publicity. It's going to be controversial because it's going to bring more, it's going to bring a subculture to light. And in a sense, I think when you look at comic books even now, you can tell they were made by liberals in the East and West Coast. Most comic book characters don't represent the South, don't represent the heartland of what I consider the South, the heart of the real America. And I think that they don't represent that. I think sometimes they represent ideals of what people want the world to go. But the world can't go there until you cover where it was at already. And the enforcer represents that. So it's going to be interesting to see people's responses to him. It's challenging as a writer because I had to jump in that viewpoint. Obviously, I'm not white, I'm black. Obviously, I don't think the KKK is cool. Obviously, the KKK won't think I'm cool. I'm sure as this video gets passed on, probably going to have some white supremacists who curse me out. But I think, in a sense, it's a real subculture and everything is not as black and white as it may seem. So, hope you enjoy him. To introduce him, you're going to see some stuff on him. He's one of my top 5 favorite characters that we created. Until next time, peace.